So what's up guys, in this video I'm going to be going over some of my best productivity tips and how I personally structure my own life to be more productive. Now I'm just gonna go like kind of step by step from how I go from like planning a productive day on a just like a normal every day that I do. So basically I would say a productive day in a sense starts the day before. So what you do the day before sets the next day. So the most important thing I think is just when you're in the evening before the next day, you go ahead and open some kind of a board and make yourself a checklist and have a general checklist of things you want to do. You don't have to have specific time specifically, but have a general checklist where you check what you have to do during the day, and then you can kind of like have some certain times when you want to do stuff like, okay, in the morning I want to do these tasks or a task, and in the evening these tasks, and during the day this task, or like go eat somewhere at a specific time, give or take. Or if you have a specific time, you can add it to the checklist, like I'm going here at this time, you have to be here at this time. When you have this checklist, it's really easy to keep productive because you always kind of know what you need to do next, and you know what you need to do during the day. And you can kind of like be dynamic when you don't have set times specifically, other than like morning, evening, etc. You can kind of like, if you get one task done, you can move on to the next, and you can kind of be more dynamic with the whole timing thing, rather than having a set timetable where every hour is like scheduled. I don't think most people who actually say that they have like a timetable, unless they're very rich and productive and they just have to do stuff all the time. I don't think most people can manage an actual timetable where they have to be at a certain time at a certain place. I think having a dynamic checklist is way better for productivity. For me at least, I find being dynamic is probably the best thing, so I can be more free and I can kind of, when I need to do something, I need to do something. Of course, if you have like work from like morning till evening, and then you can make a checklist where you're like, I have to go to work, and then maybe it's like gym, and then doing something in the evening, whatever it is you want to do. And that's one way to do it. Or if you have the weekends off, for example, you could do like, set your weekend timetable. So like, let's say on a Friday you get out of work, and in the evening you set Saturday, checklist what you want to do from morning till evening. That way you can be more productive, and it's not just gonna end up like kind of doing whatever and just wasting time, because that's very easy to do when you're not being set by any kind of a checklist or a timetable of any sort. So that's my number one productivity tip, is just before even the next day, start already planning the next day, because that way you can actually know what you're doing and not waste time, because that's probably the number one problem. After you have set that, to actually be productive during the day. Now, this all comes down to good habits also, just like eliminating bad habits that are distractions, like, any kind of bad addictions, this could range from like porn to basically social media to just about anything. That's like a distraction, because there's a lot of distractions with, the modern world and social media and everything. And it's just like, I'm gonna be completely honest, like there's so much distraction that it's very hard to be focused nowadays, especially like if you're working on the computer. So number one thing is lessen your social media usage, and all scrolling addictions need to be eliminated immediately, as well as any other addictions. Like pretty much all bad addictions you have to eliminate if you want to be more productive, honestly. Like that's what I've done. That's like the number one thing that takes a lot of time away from you. Once you actually eliminate all those bad habits, you actually notice you have a lot of free time. You would be surprised how much free time you have to do stuff once you actually eliminate all the useless, content and all that shit. You just have a lot of time. So that's pretty much my tip 2, how to be more productive and have more time to do stuff, is eliminate all the garbage. I think third is related a little bit to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice maybe some parts of your life to an extent if you want to achieve more, because you can't just be doing everything every day. You can't be highly social and still try to build a business to an extent. Like, you can be social, but you can't be like that guy who's like going to every party and, you know, all the time everywhere. Like, you just can't do that if you're trying to do like a business, or if you're trying to build something that you like doing, like hobby, or you're trying to like do something basically that requires a lot of time and effort. You just don't have the time to expend on a lot of activities. So I guess the main tip here would be pick your activities that you want to invest time into. Pick what's most important to you, and then go with that. Because if you don't pick what's most important to you, then you're kind of just gonna end up expending a lot of energy everywhere, and you're not gonna get anything done. So pick the main focus. Like, maybe you can focus on at least, I would say, 3 to 5 things that are like your primary focus, and then you can have some like side focus stuff. 3 to 5 things that you primarily focus on, and that's pretty much what you're gonna conserve your energy for, is those 3 to 5 things. That's pretty much what I do. Is I noticed when I did everything at once at one point, I was trying to do like social media and music and everything at once. It's just like, it's too much. You can't handle it even if you have the time. You just end up burning yourself out, and you can't really be productive in everything. So I'd recommend focusing on a few things at once. You can get more done, you can conserve more energy for those things, you can still have a little bit of fun in life. I think it's important to also, where you're picking your primary activities and what you want to focus on and be more productive, it's also important to balance out the productivity with a little bit of fun, so that you're not always burning out super fast. It's kind of a balance you have to strike. I don't think you should be going out all the time or doing fun stuff all the time, because you're not going to get anything done productively. If you want to get stuff done, I don't know why you would be watching this video if you don't want to be more productive. That's the whole point of this video. But anyways, that's basically what I would recommend doing. Another thing is, during the day, is when you're focusing on tasks, avoid multitasking, and then also avoid having a bunch of, if you're on the computer, for example, working on something, avoid having like a bunch of weird tabs open and everything that's distracting. It's very easy to get distracted. Now, if you're on a break, that's a different case, but like if you're trying to actually focus on something, it's kind of something, a skill you have to build also. It's focus is a skill, in my opinion. Being able to focus on a task, it requires you to actually sit down and just like focus on it. And that's something you build up over time. And also, the more you get passionate about something you're doing, the more you start being able to focus on it easier. That's something I notice. So that's pretty much like the main things I usually do during the day. Another thing is things like, some side tips would be like maybe meditation breaks during the day, like once at least. So you just kind of sit or lay down, I don't know, meditate in some kind of way, whatever it is best for you. There's a lot of ways to do it, and that can help with focus and just kind of recentering and calming yourself down, honestly, and getting into a better state to do stuff. I honestly think that the reason why most people waste a lot of time is because they don't have timetables, and they don't really have an idea of what they're doing as a purpose as well. So that's something to figure. Being productive for the sake of seeming productive is kind of pointless if you're not using that time productively. So it really depends what you want to do with your time, how you want to be, what is productive to you, and so on. But this is just some tips to how to be generally more productive. It doesn't mean I already know what you want to use your time for, but this is just generally how I stay more productive in doing the things I like to do. And that's some general tips for it. I'd say that's pretty much, for the most part, what I do during the day. Is I plan the next day, and then I also, during the day, I try to keep focused on the task at hand, and I train it over time. I try to recenter myself if I need to during the day. I don't always need to. I can stay focused pretty well. And sometimes it's important to just have breaks, because honestly, it's been even studied in a lot of studies that if you take breaks, you're more likely to be productive, because when you take a break, you can actually recenter and kind of gain some new energy to do stuff, new perspectives. So taking breaks is not a bad thing, going for a walk or just like meditating or whatever. But those are just some general tips I wanted to give for productivity. that I use just from a normal person who's very productive, or tries to be at least very productive compared to the average person. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If there's a will, there's a way. Thank you for watching.